Hey everybody, this is Secondhand Dan coming to you from Florida land. Back to the CT200H. I told you there'd be a part 2. The part has arrived. I bought it on eBay. I was quoted some really astronomical prices at some of the parts places, as much as $500, but I think I got about $45 into this part via eBay, and I ordered it on the 10th, and here it is, the 15th of April, just 5 days later, and it is in my possession. So let's say we go open it up and get this party started. Okay, it was in my mailbox, which I have to walk about length of a football field to get to, but it was in my mailbox, and I'd been checking the tracking on it, and it said out for delivery. So I figured, well, let me go down there and just to make sure, and there it was in the box, even though it, quote, air quotes, is out for delivery. It has not been marked as delivered yet, but it was in my mailbox. So let's go ahead and open it. Open it, says me. Pair of scissors to get through the plastic. All right, cute little box. A little bit of bubble wrap. Oop, there it is. Oop, there it is. Comparison to the one I just took out. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get this unit device inverter pump in place. I just have this sitting here, a little protection. Set that down. I'm going to need some tools. I got a wasp or hornet wants to follow me around. Well, it's going to be a little bit of a process. I have to do everything in reverse that I did to get it out. You can see the plugs look the same. So I'm going to have to wiggle it down in there. Again, dangling the angle and get it near to the location, and then plug in this wire. So that once, because there's not much slack in this, so I'm actually going to have the pump pretty close to in position, but I feel that I should plug it in before I actually set it down in this little framework. So let me do that. Before I go ahead and wiggle it down in there, I thought I'd show you something I just inadvertently took notice of. When I grab this pump and shake it, you can hear a little rattle. I thought, well, maybe it's the hardware. So I grabbed all the caps and bushings, and it still does that. If I go to the one removed, so is that a clue as to the condition of the used one? It's actually locked up. All right, put the old one aside. I guess I'll probably have to take these caps off just to get it down in there. Let me sit you back in the tripod. Pull these white plastic caps off. It's good to save those caps. They might come in handy for other projects in the garage. I tend to save a lot of caps like that. Maybe if you need to mask something off, or you need a bushing of some sort, but all right. Down, down, down into the abyss. into the abyss. Arg, arg. I've got a new microphone on. Rather than just going with the phone microphone, I went ahead and purchased a microphone that clips on. There we go, made my first hurdle. Clips onto my collar, and is a little insert that goes into the bottom of the phone. Okay, it's down in there. Passing it behind the electric fan. I said passing it behind the electric fan. They're pushing down on the radiator hose. Okay, it's making progress. Okay, inch by inch. Okay, it's facing in the right direction. It's facing upwards. Still another bump or clunk to go here. Let me pull the top hose up out of the way. I actually left the back corner bolt. It's still kind of sort of in place. It's at the end of my extension and socket that I left it in there rather than pull it out. I figured maybe it'll serve me to help get it in place rather than trying to completely look for that back corner bolt. I've already got a heads up on its location. Okay, it's now closing in on the location. Okay. About 80% there. All right. It's sitting basically in its bracket. Okay, now I am inserting the wire. And there was a little click. All right, well now I guess I'm sort of going to, that was probably easy compared to getting that bolt that comes up from the bottom. Remember, there's two bolts that come up from the bottom and one that goes down from the top. I said I have the one, I'm going to go ahead and put the one cap back on the top inlet because it's easy to do right now, barring anything falling down into it. Highly unlikely, but all right, well, like I said, my the next attempt, I got bolts. There's 3 that hold it. Let me go to the back of the car and get the bolts out. Over the years, especially being in the business of secondhand merchandise, it's amazing some of the items that you acquire intentionally and not intentionally. I have this wooden box here. I think it came with something I bought. And so I decided to use it as a workbench, small portable workbench right here. Right now I've got the parts and the hardware. Tools are there in this box. I believe there are 3 of these, but I believe 2 of them go to hold the pump in place. One from below and one from above. And like I said, I think there's already still one hanging on from above with the socket behind it up underneath. So I got quite the collection of plastic push pins for the cowling. These go to hold the underneath. So I wish I could just totally recall what everything does. It's a good idea, but I don't think I've ever done it, but maybe possibly once in my life, is to put things in a plastic bag as you take them off, right on the bag where they go. Well, I guess you should write on where they go before you put them in the plastic bag. It'll be a lot easier. So there's my selection of hardware. Pretty sure those are roll bottom screws. I know these are probably go to the hood latch. Like 2 on the right and the left and 2 closer to the center. It'll come to me. It'll come to me as we go. All right, so let me see about getting this pump anchored down. It's in there. Let me show you. It's pretty much like 90% in place. There's no bolts in it right now, but I do have the wire plugged in. So now I gotta finagle getting the bolts in. Lord be with me. I know I told you the bolts like this are the ones that hold the immersion pump in place. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong with that. I believe it's bolts like this with the collar already. I don't know how I managed. I dropped them both on the ground. I don't know if that just did that right now. They probably slid off this cover, because this cover doesn't have a whole lot of lip on it. But I put one already into the pump with finger tight and not even very all the way down. So just leave a little bit of slop for it to go up and down as I try and get that back corner in, which I am going to attempt next, the back corner one. So I'm going to go get a sheet and lay on the ground here, because you have to lay on the ground. But another thing, the reason for the sheet is I'm not afraid of a little sand or a little grass, but what gets me though is the ant bites, and they will bite you. And a lot of times you may not even feel it until hours later, just like a mosquito bite. Now, if they swarm on you, you'll feel it, but I think I got a couple bites from just laying here in the bare sand. There's something else in the sand. Oh, geez. Okay, I did drop all this stuff. They must have been in the pump, and I picked the pump up on the used pump and was showing you guys what I was working with, and they fell out. Because smart me, at least I put them in the pump as a reminder as to where they went, but I wasn't paying attention. And I guess my subconscious, they just looked like bolts that were bolting the pump together. And I forgot they were actually just mounting bolts. But this pump has rubber bushings and with metal grommets. But the new one already has the bushings and grommets, so you don't have to swap those out. You can see where I did go ahead and get the one started. So the tough one is going to be, you can't even see, it's kind of sort of up under the bracket, at least in eyesight, but you have to approach it from the bottom. And the same thing with this other empty ear is one that you have to approach from the bottom. That one won't be so hard. Let me get under there. Oh, go get the sheet. All right, well, you're going to get to see the agony of defeat. Well, my feet, not defeat, just my feet, because they're about the only thing they'll be dangling out. Let me get this ratchet here. I believe I'm working with a 3/8 to a down to a quarter converter to a quarter universal joint with a 1/4 inch drive, 10 millimeter socket on the top. So, and like I say, and I wedged it up under here in hopes that it might save me just a little effort in trying to realign things. But okay, I see it. You know what? I'm going to give you guys a break, because I'm sure this is going to be a real stinker. So Maybe I'll end up taking off another splash pan or fairing or whatever you want to call it. So let me take pause. Well, here's a new development. As I was trying to run the bolts up from the bottom, I did get the back corner one up through, and I'm like, what's it attaching to? I'm like, oh, there's no threads coming up from the bottom. Did I lose the nut? Did I lose two nuts? So I started to pull back out to see if I could find the nuts, and this thing showed up. It's a bracket with two nuts tack welded onto it. So evidently I overlooked that on my dismantling, that it's a bracket with two nuts. So good news is I didn't lose the two nuts. Good news is I'm going to get this together yet. So, and I think I'm going to disconnect the wire, even though I connected it. I'm going to disconnect it and pull the pump in enough room to go ahead and put the one hose on. I think that might behoove the situation if I go ahead and put the one hose on. So let me go and try that route. I'm actually working with two pair of these smaller needle nose. Right now I got one pinching the hose closed under the compartment, and this one I want to use to crimp the hose clamp in an open position and slide it up the hose and release it. Okay, what I'm going to do here, this bracket, remember the pump, these bolts have to come up from below the pump. But to keep this in place, I'm going to go ahead and thread one down here, and it'll drop through the pump, putting the other one like 90% in place. So I'll just be able to swing it around and the bolt come up from the bottom, and then I'll remove this one and bring it up from the bottom. Pretty clever idea, huh? Well, nix that bolt through the nut as an alignment pin. It bottoms out on the threads and hits the shoulder. So good idea, just I'm gonna use this instead. That'll align it and keep it in place until I get that one bolt started in the back. Slight improvement. I'm gonna actually go ahead and put the hose on. I don't think I have to unplug my wire, so I'm going to go ahead and put the hose on and slip the clamp in place, then work on bolting it down. I think that's a good plan of attack. Now, of the three bolts holding it in, it's the one at the 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock-ish position that actually threads straight down and through and connects. So that leaves the other two that have to come up from the bottom. The one at the 6 o'clock and the other one's probably at 2 o'clock. So that's where this bracket is going to come in. It will have to sit there and remain in place without getting pushed off and falling while I start those bottom bolts. So I got my work cut out for me. Like I said, this job was not for the faint of heart. It's been definitely a struggle, but a struggle that when it's all said and done is definitely well worth it. It's not an impossible struggle, just a bittersweet. Alrighty. I am going to try and manipulate this bracket in place using a magnet stick, and then once it's largely in place, where am I? I can't see myself. A lot of glare out here. I'm going to drop this screw through to maintain position on the one side. And then work at getting the other one up through the bottom, connected, and then push the use the magnet, pull the screw out, and run the other one up. This bracket is one of the toughest things I've ever had to deal with. You got to fish it down in there, and then you got to spin it around so it lines up with both holes. But this seems to be getting in the way, and I'm going to cut it off because I tried. There was a big hole in the body. It went in there, but then I couldn't draw it over to the screws. So I'm going to cut it off, and that should make it easier. Well, I've gone ahead and cut that little L off of this bracket here. So hopefully now when I set it on the pump, I can swing it around without it getting so hung up there. Let's see how that works out. I think it's going to work out just fine. Cut it off with a 4-inch cutoff wheel, and I even dressed it up a little bit. Hate to be a hack, but sometimes you got to hack something to make it work, especially if the engineers put something there that wasn't even needed. Well, so far cutting that bracket off has worked good. I was able to seat it in place and fish the one up from the 6 o'clock position. I really recommend, if you have a buddy, relative, neighbor, friend that has toothpick arms, asking them to come on over and give you a hand, because I'm going to have to reach deep and reach around, and hopefully I'll get this last one started. I mean, I'm in the zone here, but okay, it went up. I'm spinning it. I'm wiggling the, I got the magnet on a stick holding my bracket. It started. It has started, but I am up to my armpit in Lexus right now. But take it as far as I can with my fingertips. It's about a quarter turn at a time. It's working. It's working. Okay. Go back to the first one I started. All right. Quarter turn. All right. Oh, get my arm back. Remember, the secret is you need toothpick arms. I'm not quite toothpick, but I got a little meat on them. But let's crawl down underneath, run the extensions up, and snug this bugger into place. Right now, this is my weapon of choice, or my tool of circumstances. 3/8 drive, extension, down to 1/4-inch adapter, 1/4-inch universal, 1/4-inch socket, shallow. And I'm going to take a little bit of the flip-floppy out of it with a piece of tape. I think that's going to help. It'll still be flexible, but it won't just do a complete flop over. Let me get back under there. Well, that worked. It worked pretty good. I got the two coming up from the bottom, snugging down the one from the top. And voila, you really don't have to worry too much about over torquing these, because they are just to sheet metal. They're not like their sealing areas. No, they're not gasket areas. So just give them a moderate oomph. Now my pump is definitely in place. I got the lower hose on. Now I'm going to survey the situation. And looks like I got to put the block hose back on. I got to put the top of the pump on. Things are going my way. Just like Bing Crosby. I'm not showing so much my age, but showing who I grew up with. My dad was a wannabe crooner. He would sing a lot of songs. He had a PA in the house amplifier, and he'd play his records and sing along with Bing, Frank Sinatra. I appreciated some of that music. All right, here's the block hose. When I say block, it goes to the block of the electric motor. So it just slides on over, push it down, and then push this green clip in. So it's just an O-ring seal. I guess the pounds of pressure don't get that great in here like they do in the actual combustion engine. So it's just a quick connect. Now I'm going to pull this cap off and put the top hose on. This is what I'm going to use to pinch the hose clamp and slide it down. The hose is on the pump now. I find that this works good, but because of the confined area, I'm not going to be able to video that because it's just not going to be one smooth move. It's probably going to be a lot of bumping, twisting, flexing, and so it's probably going to take a couple of minutes to get this clamp on. Upper hose clamp is in place. It did take me a good 5 minutes wiggling and fudging. It's in place. So technically speaking, the inverter pump is changed. Now it's just a matter of putting everything else back together. Here we go. All right, at this point in time, I am looking to put the upper core support in. This wedgie actually helped gain me more room in between everything, so I don't need this wedge in here. And I won't be putting my hands down in there anymore. So I can take the wedgie out, and you can see how that drifted back at least about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to pick up this core support, upper rad support, and set it in place and stare at it and figure out where my bolts are going to go. These three here, I know earlier I suggested that they were to hold the pump. Now I remember, they actually hold a bracket that goes from the electric motor over to the rad support. So 2 of these are probably for the front of the hood latch mechanism. So I'm going to figure it out as I go along. Let me pick up my core support. There's no way this could have been done without taking this out. So let me set this phone down. All right. The cable there for the door, for the hood latch. I've got some screws in here, just I put them back in place so as to make it easier to recall where they go. So I know this holds a bracket right there, so let me secure these. By doing that, I will set this rag up here so they don't fall anywhere. Okay, back to finagling this core support. This goes on top. Okay, just have to push the rad back and forth a little bit. Like I said, this one here is going to this upper bracket. Hose bracket. Now these two are the same thing as these other 4 over here in the tray. So I got a total of 6 of those. Put them back up here. Assuming one goes in the top here. Mirror image over here. No, let's not cross thread anything. Sometimes it's just a hair off, it'll start to cross thread, so you got to push on the bracket. 1, 2, I'm figuring 3, 4, and then there was the down under behind here, 5, and on the opposite side 6. And plus there's 2 to hold that up against there. That might be this longer, rustier looking. They got a shoulder on them. All right, well, there's going to be a lot of fumbling with a lot of screws. Give me a couple minutes here. I still have a piece of rag back here to catch this from falling down inside this core support. So it's a good idea because it's tight and you're all fingertips, but I got some play here. Maybe that 1/4 inch drive on the extension is this going to help? Yeah, I think so. So let's put the bolt in here, pull this front end back, Good. Still got to guide it with your fingertip a little bit. Okay. Even though it's a universal joint, it's still a little tough to get started. I probably should have taken the tape off, but I got it started. Let's go ahead and start the one on the other side. I have to move my rag over to the other side, because this is probably the point where you really could drop something like this. And we don't need that little bit of grief. So guiding it. Okay. Lining it. Twisting the extension. This one's not so eager to start. But I think it may have. Yes. Yes, it has started. Okay. So I can actually, at this point, go ahead and use a ratchet. Now, before I took them out with a wrench, but I didn't have this universal out with me at that time. I didn't even know I had it, or that it would even fit. So, and even though, like I say, it fits, it's still a little bit uninviting, but there it goes. Get the top one. Get the other top one. I'm just getting them all el snuggo before I crank down on any one of them. Okay, I may as well crank on this one since the other three are all snuggo. Go back to the opposite corner. So it would have been even better to have had an actual swivel socket, but
I need to come out.
Yeah. Okay, I have these ones with the shoulder on them. I figure they go on the actual plastic part of the grill. There's some with even shallow shoulders. So, putting the big shoulders. Is this a shallow? Yeah, this is a shallow shoulder. This is a big shoulder. Because the depth of the plastic on the grill looks like it would coincide with the depth of that shoulder. So now I have 4 left. I said so there's 2 on top and 2 in this face. And that would use up the last of the bolts that I have, other than I have 3 bolts which are going to go over here for a bracket. So my question now is, these shallow shoulders versus the ones with washers, which ones go where? Which ones go where? Okay, it looks like the shallow shoulders are going to go in directly on either side of this lock, because they do fit through the hole, whereas they will not fit through the upper hole without landing on the shoulder. So, but on this one here, they fit through the hole and sit flush on the bracket. Set those 3 down. Starting it with my fingers. I think the purpose for the shoulders is possibly for alignment. Actually having to push down on this to get this one started. Ouch, it's hurting my hand. Let me put these bolts over there. Move my wrench. Get this big rag and push down on the hood latch. Okay, those are started. Now these remaining 2, let's say, go right in the top here. Now I'm not going to tighten anything down for a minute here. I'm just going to throw the cowling on just to see if there was something I needed to consider before tightening those bolts down. Okay, well that's push pin operation, and that's a push pin. Push pin, push pin, push pin. Looks like push pins everywhere. So I can go ahead and tighten those bolts down. I'll do to get them snug. Before we put any torque on them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add the torque. If it looks like I'm really bearing down, it's only because I got a short-handled ratchet. So I'm really not putting an outrageous amount of torque on them. Okay, I guess I can hang the horns. There's a bolt here that I threaded back into their core support just to keep track of them. Reaching down, snagging a horn. That's funny though, the horn actually looks like they're held on by 13 millimeter, and the core supports were 10. I think 10 would have been a way to go on the horns as well, but I'm not the engineer, I'm just a parts changer. Let me find the 13. There. A 1/4" drive set. Okay. There's my 1/4" drive ratchet. Hanging some horns. So I got this part at 1:30. I think it's going on like 4 o'clock, 4:30. I can't see the time because the phone is in camera mode right now. Okay, I got 2 uppers there that I need to torque down. Actually, I forgot about this hose bracket too, but I already took the proper size off. I'll go back to it. Okay, 10 mil on the grill. Okay, now I gotta get that 14 or 13 back. I think it's over here. Batten down this, what is it, a coolant line of some type. Okay. Let me go get the motor bracket, the electric motor bracket. Is it? I love it when a job and all the bolts are accounted for. So I was a little confused about this one, but that's from back when I talked about possibly removing the headlight. It goes in up here. Here's this bracket. Goes there. And I have the 3 remaining bolts. Everything else is a push pin, or I guess a rubber grommet for the hood. And these are all underneath for the cowl. So, pretty good shape here as far as getting it all back together. 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter. Oh, I didn't grab a 10. I grabbed a 9. 9er. There's a 10 spot. This here tool and its big brother, and they've been working, but they're not my first tool of choice. I think these are like a Harbor Freight. Probably came in a batch of stuff I bought from somewhere. I mean, I will buy and use Harbor Freight in a pinch. It means between getting the job done or putting it off another day. Or if it's a specialty tool and figure I only use it once, why pay more money for a name brand if you're only going to use it once? Oh. Knuckle scraper there. All right. Remember I was telling you need somebody with toothpick arms? I actually was bleeding from that spot there from wedging my arm up in there. Now I'm bleeding from my knuckle. That was just carelessness because I'm trying to hold the phone and do some video. So shouldn't do that. But it's nice to say I put my blood, sweat, and tears into the job. All right, well now it's just a matter of putting the cowling back on. Oh, and there's one other thing you don't want to forget if you've done this, is remove the vice grips that you use to clamp the hose. Well, this job is about 90% done. Yeah, put this in, put the push pins in, lay on my back. These are some bolts to hold that piece up underneath the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's not that interesting, so I'll let you know when I'm done with it. Okay, I'm on to the last part on this list. Putting this up underneath with this hardware. Okay. It is finished. Got it all put back together. Just got to clean up. Again, I did put some cribbing under the tires to gain some extra height under there. And then after that, I even put a jack to gain a little more height. And for security's sake, I have a floor jack or a jack stand under there. So let me get that out of there. Alrighty, just gotta put the fuse cover back on. This is the wire that if you need to reset the warning lights on the dash, that's the first thing I found out about it when the lights came on. It did go off. When I plugged it back in, it stayed off for about 100 miles. But at this point, pray to God it stays off for 50,000 miles. I don't think I'll own it at that point. All right, closing the hood. See, cribbing on this side. I got to pull this truck out of the way so I can get this unit out on the road. And the truck keys are not on me, so let me go grab those. Want to move the truck out of the way, but there's a naked lady on the front seat. Ma'am, you're going to have to move. Move. All right, well, I'll move you. One of those secondhand treasures from yard selling. She actually has legs and arms too. No head. Projects to the left, projects to the right. I know this truck, it's got a little shutter in it when I first started up. So I'm thinking maybe it needs plugs and or wires. But once it gets warmed up, it seems to be fine. I guess these cars are kind of sought after already buying it and joining the a web or a Facebook page devoted to them. There are a lot of people. They trick these things out. They'll mess with the suspension and headlights and not me though. All right, in the cabin, power button. It says ready. Reverse. Okay, gasoline engine's kicked on. Right now there's no warning lights suggesting anything's wrong. We're going to keep it that way. That was the whole purpose of this job. There is a definite learning curve with this kind of car. When we first bought it, the wife's like, "Somebody help me, I can't get the car started." Well, you just get in, push the button, and if it says ready, it's ready, even if you don't hear it running. Alrighty then. Down the rumbly road here. This is my driveway. I share it with a couple neighbors. It ends in a dead end, and at the dead end is where I live, plus on the two other lots down at the dead end. And here's where the road turns into a lasagna noodle. Alrighty. I guess I gotta put a seatbelt on. Thing gets about 40 miles a gallon since we've had it, so, and we haven't had it on a true road trip, you know, like down the interstate for a couple hours. So there it might even get closer to 50. All right, well, this closes out this video. If it was helpful to you in any way, please tell me in the comments, or tell me if there's anything I overlooked, or if you own a CT200 CT200H and want to give me a little more insight on owning one, that's cool with me. I guess this guy's letting me pass. All right, well, that closes out this video. Thanks for sticking with me through it. Bye, everybody. Oh, one last thing before I go. One of the things I had done or saw to suggest that it was the pump was there was no moving coolant inside this bottle. Now I can see coolant moving. So that points to a success. Thanks again. Bye.